Hi, this is Bridget from the DeVay Homestead. Welcome back. Today we're going to be making this fun Batman hat. It's just a very simple hat with a rib stitch brim and an Ewrap knit body. And I have ironed on this Batman logo that you can buy these appliques. I got this off of Amazon and I'll provide the link. And then I'm going to show you how to make the ears of Batman and how to attach them to your Batman hat. For the Batman hat, I'm going to be using the 36 peg loom, yellow and black from Charisma. With my black yarn, I'm going to do the cast on for my Batman hat. Place your slip knot onto the anchor peg and start your cast on. I'm using a double Ewrap cast on, but you can use whatever cast on you feel comfortable with. For our double Ewrap cast on, I'm going to double Ewrap each peg and knit off. And I'm going to do that all the way around. So finish your cast off and meet me back here. Now my cast on is complete. Now we're going to start our 1x1 rib stitch. For this hat we're going to do a knit one, purl one, rib stitch. So we're going to knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one all around our loom, and we're going to be using the Ewrap knit stitch. So I'm going to wrap my first peg for my Ewrap knit stitch, but I'm going to leave it on the peg and I'm going to come back later and knit it off when I'm finished the whole round. To do our purl stitch, we're going to take our hook and go underneath the loop that's on the peg. We're going to scoop up our working yarn. We're going to take the old loop off and put the new loop on and gently pull. We're going to Ewrap for our knit stitch and then purl. So we're going to do this around the whole loom, knit, purl, to make our rib stitch. Once you finish your first row, I'm going to go back and knit off all my knit stitches, which is any pegs that have two loops on them, knit off the bottom loop. Now we can take our beginning yarn off the anchor peg and slip that to the back, and we'll weave that in at the end of our project. So we have one row finished. We want to do one more row of black, same way as we did before with our knit purl, and then meet me back here. Once we finish up our second row, now we are going to do a color change to our yellow. You can use any method you would like to do your color change. I'm just going to make a slip knot and place it on the peg next to where I ended. I'm going to tie. I'm going to cut off my black and tie those two together. I'm going to take my yellow off of the anchor peg, pull out my slip knot, and then my two colors are joined together. I'm going to hold the two yellows together as one so I can go ahead and weave in that tail so I don't have to do it later. So now we're going to do 3 rows the same way we did before with our Ewrap knit purl for 3 more rows of our brim. So finish off 3 rows and meet me back here. So I finished the 3 rows of my yellow, and now I'm going to do a color change back to black and then knit 2 more rows of our rib stitch in the black to finish off our brim. I just finished the second row of my black. So I have 2 rows of black, 3 rows of yellow, and 2 rows of black. Now I'm ready to start the body of my hat. For the body of our hat, we're going to be using an Ewrap knit stitch for the whole body. You can make your hat as long as you want, and so you're going to continue doing your hat till you get the length that you desire. For our Ewrap knit stitch, we're going to Ewrap the peg, and the way we do that is come to the back of the peg and wrap it around to where it looks like we're making cursive E's. After we wrap a few, we can hold our yarn and knit off. You're going to continue Ewrapping and knitting off to the end of the row, and then you're going to continue on all your rows the same for the rest of the hat until you get your desired length, and then meet me back here for our bind off. I just finished 24 rows of my body, and I'm ready for my drawstring cast off or bind off. Now that we're finished our drawstring bind off, we're going to weave in the ends from our color change and from our first cast on. We're also going to trim any of these little hanging ones from where we weaved in the two together. After you weave in your ends, turn your hat inside out and it is complete. Now we will learn on how to finish it off and put the ears on. Now we're going to learn how to make the triangle for Batman's ear. I've already made one and attached it to the hat, which I will show you. And in a separate video, I will show you a really in-depth on how to do the triangle. But I'm going to show it to you a little bit quicker here, and hopefully you guys can follow along. The first thing I did on my loom, the same size loom you made your hat on, is I've marked 8 pegs. I'm going to call this peg, peg 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm not going to use my anchor peg in this video, but if you do have an anchor peg, I like to put it in between my 8 just so I know very quickly there's 4 on this side and 4 on this side of my anchor peg. So this is peg 4 and this is peg 5. And I'm going to start in the center. So when I'm wrapping the pegs, I will call the peg by number. The first thing you're going to do is make a slip knot, but I'm going to leave a long tail, like probably about 15 inches. That way, when I am finished, I'm actually going to use some of this tail to secure the ear onto the hat. So I'm going to take my slip knot and I'm going to put it on peg 4. So again, I'm not putting it on the anchor peg, I am putting it on peg 4. Then I'm going to go to peg 5 and I'm going to Ewrap peg 5. Then I'm going to come back to peg 4 and Ewrap peg 4. And then I'm going to knit off peg 4. And it helps if you have it written down and then you're just following your instructions as you go. So then I'm going to come back to peg 5, wrap peg 5 with an Ewrap and knit off. So we're E-wrapping all these. I'm going to come back to peg 4 and I'm going to E-wrap peg 4, but this time I'm going to do a slip stitch on peg 3. So I'm increasing my triangle on this side. I'm going to knit off peg 4. Now we're going to the right and I'm going to E-wrap peg 4, E-wrap peg 5, and I'm going to put a slip stitch on peg 6. So the row before I increased on this side, and here I'm increasing on this side, and I'm going to knit off. And just push those down a little bit. Okay, now for our next row, we are working to the left. We are going to E-wrap peg 5. Let me pull my yarn here. Okay, E-wrap peg 5, E-wrap peg 4, E-wrap peg 3, and knit all 3 of those off. Doing this at a really funny angle. Okay, now working back to the right, I'm going to E-wrap peg 4, E-wrap peg 5, E-wrap peg 6, and knit off. And push those down. Now coming back to the left, I'm going to E-wrap peg 5, E-wrap peg 4, E-wrap peg 3, and now I'm going to come to peg 2 and slip stitch because now I'm increasing again. And then I'm going to knit off pegs 4, 5, and 3 and push those down. Now I'm continuing back to the right. I'm going to E-wrap peg 3. Hold on, let me pull my working yarn here. E-wrap peg 3, E-wrap peg 4, E-wrap peg 5, E-wrap peg 6, and you probably can guess what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to slip stitch row 7, peg 7. So last time I increased over here, and now I'm increasing over here. And I'm going to knit off peg 6, 5, 4, and 3, and push those down. Now I'm working back to the left, and I'm going to E-wrap peg 6, peg 5, peg 4, peg 3, peg 2, and then I'm going to knit off peg 6, peg 5, peg 4, peg 3, and peg 2, and push those down. Now working back to the right, I'm going to E-wrap peg 3, E-wrap peg 4, E-wrap peg 5, and E-wrap peg 6, and E-wrap peg 7. And I'm going to knit all of them off. Knit off peg 2, 3, peg 4, peg 5, peg 6, peg 7, and push those down. Now we're going back one more row to our left, and we're going to E-wrap peg 6, peg 5, peg 4, peg 3, peg 2, and I'm going to knit off each of those. and push those down. Okay, so if you look in here, I have a really cool triangle. Look at that. So now we have to get it off the loom, and we are going to use our cast off method known as our flat bind off. In order to do that, we are going to take our working yarn and we are going to Ewrap peg 2 and knit off, and we don't want to do these too tight because then we're going to take peg 3 and move it to peg 2. So we E-wrapped and knitted off peg 3 and then move the loop over to peg 2. Take your bottom yarn, knit over peg 2, take off of peg 2 and move on to peg 3. Okay, now we're going to take our working yarn, we're going to E-wrap peg 4, knit off, take the loop on peg 4 and move it to peg 3. Take the bottom loop, knit off, move this loop over to peg 4. We're going to continue this all the way around. So take our working yarn, we're going to E-wrap peg 5, knit over, move the loop on peg 5 to peg 4, yarn over or knit over, move your loop to peg 5. Now we are going to E-wrap peg 6, knit off, move loop on peg 6 to peg 5, knit off, move this loop over. Okay, we're almost to the end. We're going to E-wrap, knit off, move this over to peg 6, knit off. Okay, now we are going to take our yarn and we're going to measure about another 15 inches and then cut off our yarn. And again, we're going to be using these tails to secure Batman's ear to the hat, so we want to leave those long. We're going to do like we do when we do a drawstring bind off or a purl, and we're going to pull our working yarn through, and if we pull this loop off, we can just tighten that up and we'll have a knot right there. So we have Batman's ear. To attach the ear to the Batman hat, we have 2 tail ends that we left. We want to thread the one coming from the tip of the ear onto a yarn needle, and we're going to weave it in through our ear till we get about right here. And the reason is we're going to weave this in, and then we're going to use this one to attach this part of the ear to the hat. Then we're going to take this yarn and we're going to use it to attach across here and then up just a little bit onto our hat. If we just attached it across the bottom, the ear would just fall off. So we want to make sure that we are attaching a little bit on either side of the ear and across the bottom. So to do that, I'm just going to weave my tail in through the ear. I'm just going to pull that out to kind of keep that point till I get about right there. Okay, now I'm going to take the ear and I'm going to place it on the hat. So as you can see, I'm just a little bit down from the tip on either side. So I have the other one on this side, so I'm going to put this one on the exact opposite side. Let me see. And if you want, you can place it on there and then secure it with a safety pin or whatever, but I'm just going to eyeball it. So from here, I'm going to take my yarn and go into my hat, making sure that I only go through one layer and not the whole hat. Okay, now I'm going to come up onto the ear and I'm just going to sew that down to the bottom of the ear. Once I do that, I'm just going to pull that to the inside of my hat and I'm going to take it off my yarn needle, but I'm not going to make a knot yet, just in case I need to use that yarn to secure it anymore. I can go back before I make a knot. So then I'm going to take my other one, and you really can do this any way you like. This is just the way I do it. So if you're used to sewing on different pieces to attaching them to other pieces, then you can do it any way you'd like. And here I'm just going to go across. Then when I get to the end of my ear, I just want to go up the side of the ear just a little bit to attach it so that his ears will stick up and out and not flop down. Okay, so before I take my yarn needle off, I'm going to just check and see if there's any places where it's not secure, just making sure that the ears stick up the same. Okay, looks good. So I'm going to go in the inside and I'm going to finish off the yarns just like I did when I finished the hat. So do that and then meet me back here. Okay, so I'm going to iron on my patch. So I put my hat on the end of the ironing board, and you want to be really careful because acrylic can burn. So if you don't feel comfortable ironing it on, then you can just sew it on. So I'm going to figure out where I want it on the hat. And then I'm going to cover the areas around the hat with some cloths just to protect the yarn. But like I said, be very careful with acrylic, it will burn. I'm just going to kind of protect that. And then over the patch, I'm just going to put another material per the directions. And I'm going to iron it on. So I'm going to check, it's really hot. I'm going to check when it cools down and see if it needs to be ironed in any more places. And just be very careful because, again, your acrylic will burn. So you probably even want to cover up your areas closer to the patch even a little bit better. So you're just going to iron that on. It feels nice and secure, but if there's any areas that aren't, you would just want to go over those again. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, or if you want to secure it more, then we can just sew right around here. And once we secure our logo, our Batman hat is complete. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.